Welcome to the Good Ride. I'm James Beastie. This is the Amplid Soulmate. Next to it is the Souly Grail. Next to that is the Singular. I put all three together because they probably have the most overlap in the Amplid line, and I often tested these three together. I rode this with Union Atlas, Ride Fuse, Burton Kendos, and Nidecker Rift Lace boots, new for 2024. I got this in a wide variety of conditions, some good groomers, some decent powder, some better powder, and put a decent amount of time on this, often comparing it every day to the Souly Grail. They seem to have the most overlap, and sometimes against the Singular. When it comes to sizing, the 157 Soulmate fit my 5'10" frame well, fit my size 9 boots well. I wouldn't want to go much wider from here. I really liked the way my boots could turn this, but it wasn't right for my 185 pounds. I could probably size up if they have a bigger size, and that would be a little bit better, but I think it's just more about this board's flex personality, and dampness doesn't work for me, so I'd probably stick with the 57. The Souly Grail fit me perfect for weight, height, and boot size, in my opinion, and so did the Singular. When it comes to shape, the Soulmate is a little more tapered, a little more directional than the Souly Grail, but not by that much. Just a little narrower tail, a little wider waist, and a little wider nose, a little deeper side cut. Then you throw in the camber profile. The camber profile with the Soulmate is full camber. I'm not seeing any early rise anywhere throughout this board. In comparison to the Souly Grail, there's a touch of early rise. Same with the Singular. Just a little bit before the nose and maybe a touch in the tail, but not that much. They're all mostly camber boards, and this is pretty much a camber board. It feels a little more technical, a little more locked in than the other boards, but at least it has that softer flex to balance that out. So overall, I would say it's semi-locked in, bordering on being locked in, not for intermediate beginner riders, even though this is a low price point, budget-friendly board. This is more advanced to expert riders on a budget. If you're a beginner intermediate, you go to skid a turn, you might catch an edge and slam. Let's talk flex here. It's got a pretty medium-ish flex, but there's a lot of give back. It really pops. It's got a lot of snap to it. The nose doesn't feel much softer than the waist, and the tail feels a little stiffer than the waist. Pretty much throughout the board, there's a consistent, very poppy flex. So you have a very poppy, very energetic, very lively flex underfoot with the Soulmate. The Souly Grail and Singular feel like they take more work to access the pop, but pop just as well once you do. They all have lots of pop. This just is really easy to access because there isn't that dampening technology in there. This is pretty easy to butter. All of them are moderate when it comes to buttering. This is a little easier in the nose and tail. But when you take these flex personalities and you apply them to how they ride in all kinds of uneven snow, the Souly Grail and Singular just kill it in all conditions, from hard micro bumpy snow to wet messy snow and everything in between. They just have a dampness to them and shock absorption that really helps you ride in all conditions. The Soulmate doesn't. It got pretty messy. It bucked me and bounced me around way more than I would like. And I'm not a super heavy rider. This board shouldn't act like this for my weight, and that's a big concern with me. I'd love to see some dampening in there. I noticed there seems to be no anti-phase technology mentioned in the Future Shape series, but yet they're very damp and they have that cool rubbery feel. I'd love to see something put into place here as long as they can keep it at this price point. When it comes to speed, just like with uneven snow, there just isn't much dampness here. The faster I go, the more the board just starts to give me feedback where the faster I go with the Souly Grail, the more scared I get because it just doesn't seem to care about speed. It is very damp and very fast for this kind of shape and flex. Same with the Singular. They just can really handle speed better than most of their peers with this shape and flex. And size. This can be a chattery mess and it can get a little sketchy at high speeds. And when it comes to base glide, the base glide wasn't great. The Souly Grail and the Singular definitely have better base glide than the Soulmate. It's an extruded base. One thing about extruded is it doesn't have the low lows. It doesn't have the high highs either, but it keeps its speed pretty well if you're not a waxing freak, and it's okay. I think the base is good enough for this price point. When it comes to edge hold, I felt like this just didn't grip as well as the Singular and the Souly Grail. Those edges seem to be quieter. They have more dampening technology in the edge. So they manage to hold an edge in all conditions in a consistent fashion. This seemed to hold an edge well in clean snow, but the minute it started to get slightly uneven, not even bad, really, still really fun, but I just didn't feel like it held the edge as well. So maybe not the best for harder snow in comparison to the rest of the Amplid line. When it comes to turn initiation, the turning experience and carving, I felt like the Soulmate initiated a turn pretty well. They all did, not super fast, not super slow, more on like the medium quick side, maybe on the medium side of medium quick, but they both worked whenever I needed this board to turn in the trees. If somebody got in front of me and I needed to, make a quick adjustment, it initiated a turn really well. And when I got it over on edge, I felt like it was very balanced, maybe a touch on the turny side, and I really like that. The spring out of the turn is great. I just wish it had a little more dampness because sometimes it just couldn't hold my carve if the conditions were uneven. This is only a good condition carver. This isn't an all conditions carver like these guys are. The Singular and the Souly Grail can power through all kinds of terrain and just carve in any kind of condition. When it comes to powder, I noticed something interesting with all these boards. I don't know if you can see it here, but there's 2, 4, 6 inserts here, but 2, 4, 5 by 2 inserts here. Same here, same here. I'm not sure if that's something they did with the demo model or they just want your front foot in one particular place, but they want your back foot to be in different places, but I'm surprised they're not both 6 by 2. And so that was kind of weird when it came to getting your set back on board. I actually wish it was the opposite way where there was one more insert pattern here and maybe one less right here. But that's just how it is. And with a 22.5 inch stance width set all the way back, you can get negative 3.625 inches back from center of board. That's pretty good. I felt like this floated okay. I was expecting a lot more float, but it felt more centered in powder. I didn't seem to feel any early rise, so I didn't really get a lot of extra cheater float that I normally like, even when set all the way back. I felt like the Souly Grail did a little better, and the Singular wasn't as good as either of these. I wasn't really that impressed in the powder float with all 3 of these boards in comparison to a lot of their peers, but overall, it's not bad. I'd say definitely the Souly Grail's the winner here. It's just got a little more float than the Soulmate, but you gotta pay for that. One thing to mention is all these boards on groomers rode switch really well. I was pretty impressed with that. I think you could take these in and hit some kickers, go into the pipe with these. They're all fine, especially the Singular. That's a very versatile, very well-rounded board. These are more daily directional drivers, but they can throw it around switch way better than you would think for this kind of look. And overall, if it wasn't for the chatter, I would say the Soulmate would be a great board for a wide variety of riders looking for a tapered directional daily driver. As it stands, the chatter's a deal breaker for me and for people like my weight, but if you're a lighter rider, this might work for you. If not, go for the Souly Grail. that can handle my weight and riders of a heavier weight, no problem. Same with the singular.